I'm very excited. I'm very excited today. So, I found this incredible man after watching a documentary on National Geographic. And when I watched it, the thing that impressed me was when you talked about pleasure. So, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it over to you and I'm going to say, welcome, DACHER Keltner. Please tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, Kara. Nice to be here, and nice to talk with you. Well, I am a professor here at UC Berkeley in Berkeley, California, in the Bay Area. I grew up I was born in Mexico and grew up in the late 60s in a wild part of California, and then moved to the country. And was largely educated here, but lived in the UK and Europe in college and high school. And I am a father of two daughters whom I love. I have a lot of Irish roots on my dad's side. And there we go. There's Natalie and I backpacking. And thank you for showing that. And there's Serafina, who has the red hair that runs through my family and my wife's
Beautiful,
family.
beautiful.
Yeah. And and I study emotions and power and beauty and awe.
I think it's incredible to hear somebody say they study awe.
Yeah.
So, what happened in your
Yeah.
life? What was the moment that you went, yeah, I'm going to study awe?
Yeah. Well, part of it is my childhood, where I was very lucky to have parents, unlike a lot of parenting today, who took me to art museums and took me to music and, camped a lot. And my mom taught Romanticism and Shelley and Percy and Wordsworth and the like. And so I was kind of raised in a time of awe and a life of awe. I think the experience that really led me to study awe was watching my two daughters be born. And it was just mind blowing, and the world changed, and I felt just unimaginable love. And then I was, like you said, Kara, it's who could ever study awe? I mean, it seems like it's beyond science and beyond words and beyond explanation, but I'm part of the science of emotion, that studies things like the voice and face and chills and tears and heart rate and and all the things that happen in our bodies when we feel awe. And so I decided to start studying it.
What an incredible thing to study, though.
I know. No.
To wake up every morning and say, I'm going to study why the body has chills at a certain
Yeah.
time, which, by the way, is fascinating. When you
Yeah.
hear a piece of music,
Yeah.
and I try and explain this to people, I'm sure you're going to get it. And it feels like somebody just put a shower head on top of your head in the middle, and it flushes down your whole body. And even now I can feel it. These are all exceptional things that are happening to us. Is it always, or is it when we're aware of them?
Well, I think, awe, when we feel awe in response to music, like you said, or, beautiful nature, or, somebody whose courage just blows you away, or you're meditating or praying and you feel awe, a lot of different sources of awe that I call the eight wonders. The body gets going really fast, right? That's the older part of awe. Parts of your brain start to say, like, God, this is transcendent. This is beyond ordinary life. That signal goes into your body and activates one branch of your nervous system, which makes you tear up and cry and get the chills. And then your heart warms, which is a sign of the activation of what's called the vagus nerve. And that's old, right? Mammals do that. Chimpanzees do that. It doesn't involve language. It's probably your first awareness of, oh my God, this song is just so important to me. And then, your brain gets involved, the more recent regions of your brain that starts to make sense of what you're feeling.
So I'm trying to articulate what's coming to me as you're saying that, because that idea of making sense of something that's
Yeah.
nonsensical, kind of,
Yeah.
sort of, like it's
Yep.
innate, it's natural.
Yeah.
Why do we feel the need to make sense of something like that when it's just so perfect as it is?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's interesting. And people who study non-human primates chimpanzees and our closest relatives in the primate world, they don't go around talking about their emotions all the time. And, so there's something unusual about human emotional experience in that regard. And I think that it largely has to do with something that the British and the Irish are great at, which is storytelling. And I think that our emotions, and this is a view of emotion that I've championed over the years, our emotions tell us how to live life. They tell us how to fall in love and take care of people and fight for justice and enjoy a piece of music as in a community and relate to the divine. Those are all at their core emotional relationships. And the way that we become wise as a culture and get along is we share stories about our emotions, what makes us angry and what's morally beautiful and what's repulsive about a politician, right? We share these stories, hence the need for language, so that we can all kind of be in alignment with how we respond emotionally to the important events in life. And that's, there's a case to be made in the study of language that language fundamentally, i.e. how we label experiences with words, is social. It's about, you know, sharing things with other people. And that's what we do with our emotions, like awe.
It's incredible. It's amazing to watch people when they're in that space of taking
Yeah.
in something and they're awestruck, they're in
Yeah.
wonderment, they're filled with whatever it is that's in their environment. How does this show up or manifest in your teaching? When you're teaching a class, when you're lecturing, when you're in the middle of a piece and you're talking, do people in your class feel it? Can you see
Yeah.
them feeling it?
Yeah. Yeah. On one of the sources of awe that I write about is collective effervescence. And it's
Mm,
where you're with a bunch of people, you're sharing an experience, you're attending to something, a football match, a rugby match, some music, a ceremony in a church. You're all there together, your minds start merging, you're moving together, you're feeling together. And Emil Durkheim called it collective effervescence, which is just like,
beautiful.
yeah, you get this like, wow, I feel ecstatic. I'm a shared mind with other people. And yeah, there are times when I teach where you can feel that, where everybody's enjoying an idea and we're laughing together and they're raising their hands and there's this shared awareness that then becomes transcendent. And, those are the highest points of teaching. And of course, there are many other moments of teaching, but thank you for asking. I find sharing awe, this story of awe in teaching and speaking to be awe-inspiring because
Mm.
everybody's sharing in the wonders of what this emotion is.
It's like one of those continuous circles. You share it,
Yeah.
people feel it. You share it, people feel it. There's no end.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel it when they're excited. So
Okay, so just so you know, I'm dying to come to one of your classes. I might just go there on
I'll
purpose
see
and
you.
just sit in there. So, is that what happens when people pray? You know how you'll hear people say when collective praying happens, there's this spiritual feeling of power and the potential for what it can do for
Yeah.
whoever you're praying for. Is
Yeah.
that collective effervescence idea?
It is, it's so interesting. I am friends with the dean of a church here in the Bay Area, Malcolm Clements Young, who's very interested in spiritual feeling and has written about it, much like, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Julian of Norwich and a lot of people and William James have been interested in, wow, I have this feeling about the divine that
Mm.
is at the heart of my religion or my religious practice and commitments or spiritual commitments. And Malcolm said, it was so hard during the pandemic because you couldn't pray together. And there's something about when everybody puts their heads together, and just like I feel when we do yoga together, the togetherness really matters. And so how we think about it from the science of awe is there is something very powerful about relating your identity to a divine force, a larger force, whatever it is, whatever tradition you come out of. That's powerful. That's awe-inspiring. But then you add this collective awareness, just like when you see music with other people, it just changes, right?
Mm.
And that becomes additionally transcendent. And it's why, uh, you know, no matter how religions change and spiritual practices change, which they always do, uh, people are always looking for them because they're so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, and you can feel it. Something
Yeah.
very interesting, here locally, we have our family chemist. And I was
Yeah.
talking to him one day, and he's the most amazing guy. He's just incredible. People would say he's better than a doctor.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of the pandemic, and everybody was feeling all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
And he said that what he found really interesting was the older generation and the kind of 30 to 50-year-olds felt really displaced because they couldn't go
Yeah.
to church.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's another side to that awe. Is that the polar opposite to it, where that collectivity is taken away? There's a
Well,
void.
that's one of the, I mean, it's a terrific question, Kara. In many parts of the world right now, as individualism has spread and people aren't going to church like they used to. United States, it's dropped to about 50%.
Wow.
It's lower in some countries in Europe. We don't do picnics together. We don't dance like we used to. We don't listen to music together. We don't go to films in theaters together. It's just been a massive breakdown of the sharing of these experiences. And we're suffering because of it. We're
Mm,
more lonely, more isolated. And so it's a real struggle of our times to figure out how to get back into the collective experience or shared experience of all.
mm.
And I take heart, one of the interesting developments in the United States is farmers markets are exploding everywhere, and they didn't used to exist 30 years ago. Now there are 9,000, I think, in the United States.
Wow.
And people go to them for awe. They're like, hey, there's the musician, and I love her honey, and I'll buy the vegetables from her and her
Mm.
radishes. And you share in the collective joy of that.
Thank God for things like that and for moments like that. Back in the day here in Ireland, we had a thing called the Stations of the Cross.
Yeah.
And I don't know, have you ever heard of it?
Hmm.
All the families would come together in the locality, and even the priest would get drunk. Everybody in the house. That wasn't the aim of
Oh.
it. Was not the aim of it. But
Yeah.
everybody shared something
Yeah.
together. It was that
Profound.
village community mentality, and it was rich, and
Yeah.
everyone knew everything about everybody, but nobody really minded. Whereas now everybody knows everything about everybody, and everybody cares that
Well
that's
put.
the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're missing connectivity.
We are, and I'm writing about this for a new book. There are a lot of concerns about our move of our life online to
Mhm.
Instagram and Meta and TikTok and YouTube. And you're exactly right. Like, Facebook started as a try to make everybody open and connected was their motto. And it's done the opposite, and that's because you cannot replace the magic of being physically together,
Mm.
at the Stations of the Cross or a farmer's market or a yoga studio, or for me playing pickup basketball and
Cool.
sharing all of that. So we got work to do.
Fact. Oh, so much so. I went to the priest the other day and I said to him, any chance we could start up the Stations of the Cross again? I'll go first.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
Awesome. I'll bring you. Okay, so something that I noticed, and again, it comes back to that connectivity in that community. As I watched Pole to Pole, what I
Yeah,
was noticing was the communities, right?
yeah,
The
yeah,
depth of connection
yeah,
and the simplicity. Some of those communities they have so little.
yeah,
Is that a trigger for awe? Is it when
yeah,
we have less,
yeah.
we can feel and see more?
Yeah, I mean, we know empirically that the more money you have, the less awe you feel.
Mm,
And that's nice because it means you don't need money to find this very important emotion.
mm,
And so, yeah, in Pole to Pole with Will Smith, we did this trek up to Lhasa to be with the Laya people. And, it's one of the highest places in the Himalayas, very, uh, very focused life. I don't want to say simple, but just tending to the land. And they've got their cows and, community. And life is hard, man. It's cold, not a
Mm.
lot of food. They didn't have electricity, no roads up there. But it's togetherness. I remember they have these festivals of archery, and Will participated in the archery festival. Very windy those times, so it didn't go so well.
No.
But but at the festivals, they do archery. The whole community gathers. They eat food. They dance. They get up
Mm.
the next day. They do that again. Days. And as I was sat in those festivals, it makes me tear up. And I just sat amidst the Laya people up there. These old Himalayan folks. There was a togetherness that you will not find in the United
Mm.
States ever, anywhere, and a health there. They are one of the happier people in Bhutan, and that's a lesson for us, right? That there has to be togetherness, and we got to rebuild that.
Yeah. Togetherness equals happiness, maybe.
Yeah, as it's the most, I've taught happiness at Berkeley for 30 years, reviewed thousands of studies. The best pathway to health and happiness is togetherness. It's just being with, if you're shy like me, go out with one friend. If you're an extrovert like my younger daughter, have lots of friends and just be out all the time,
Yeah.
be with other people in the right way.
I love it. Yeah, we definitely need to come back to that. My
Yeah.
mind always goes to how. How can we do that? How can we make
Yeah.
that happen? So then a question I have for you is what's happiness? Genuinely, what's happiness?
Happiness is when you feel good about your life,
Mm.
and we measure it with questions like that. It predicts a lot. It tells you how creative you are, how well your work goes. Are you caring for your kids, the people around you? Are you a good friend? And then the real work begins when you try to figure out what makes you feel good about your life. And
Mm.
how I teach it is relationships, conversations with strangers and friendliness and deep friendships and good family connections and partnerships with romance. Uh, Positive emotions, go find some awe, beauty, love, joy, compassion, laughter. I love laughter, and
Me too.
it's a wonderful pathway to happy. And then the third thing is like, how do you handle hardship? The Buddhists are right. Life involves a lot of suffering. Um, there is, your body starts to get old and your people around you pass away, and
Mhm.
climate crises and trauma in the family and violence in the Middle East. And how do you handle that? How do you make sense of it? And we have a lot of tools to do that. So if you can find some relationships, handle stress, and find your positive emotions and bring them into your life, you'll find more happiness.
It sounds very simple. Like it sounds like
Yeah,
it's a simple thing for people to assimilate, to take in.
it is. But as any listener out there is probably thinking about right now, modern life and gets in the way. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I got to pay my bills, or, oh my God, I'm late for that meeting, or my teenager is sneering at me, or, whatever it is,
Yeah.
or I'm too busy, or, I got to go online, So it's a struggle. And that's why it's one of the most central questions that people ask about the human condition is, how do I have a good life?
Mm.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but definitely worth asking and worth
Always.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, finding the right people to have those conversations with as well, who are going to be willing to go deep.
Well put. I agree. I, you know, um, I, in teaching happiness, it's really striking. First was the realization like relationships matter so much. They give you 10 years of life expectancy if you just feel connected,
Mhm.
And even if you're shy and living on your own, 40% of people in Norway live on their own. It's one of the happiest countries in the world, right? Because they
Wow.
feel connected in community. And so relationships matter. And then, what's really striking is friendships matter profoundly. Just like you said, like find those people where you go deep with. And it may be your mom and dad, siblings, but it's also going to be the friend at the pub, or the person you go walking with, or the person you're riding a bus with, or walking the dog next to. Just find that friendship as part
Yeah.
of your life.
My sister is great at that. She's the one I sent
Yeah.
you the email about. She's incredible. She gets
Oh,
on a train
yeah.
and suddenly she's having the deepest, deeping meaningfuls with random strangers ever.
Yeah.
She's incredible for it.
Yeah.
So then when it comes to your daughters, how did you decide to develop this with them? Or is it just because it's part of you that it became how it was with them?
Well, thank you for asking that. It was a real, in the United States, and increasingly around the world, there's too much pressure on young people, way too much pressure. The economics are hard. We're starting to realize rent. When I was their age, they're in their 20s, rent was $100 a month. Today, it's $2,200 a month. It's just like, I mean, as a young person, who can do that? They've managed to. And then I found that our world was too competitive and too materialistic. And those are also truths about our world. They're more competitive and materialistic, and pressure on young people. So it was a real struggle, Kira. But what I really committed to was get them outside, have them relate to nature, which we do, camp, get wild when they're in their teens, go to music, get loose, dance, it made me, even if you're a little hungover the next day, that's okay, and then I wanted to make sure they heard, like, I care about kindness, I care about justice. In the United States, the criminal justice system is really deeply flawed and racist. I care about that. They know that. I care about kindness. And then I really am proud that I wasn't raised religious, but I find spiritual experience out in the mountains. So my older daughter loves the mountains. I find deep meaning in yoga. My younger daughter loves yoga, right? So I gave them something. So it was a struggle, but we've made it.
Yeah,
Or we're making it, I should say.
what a great achievement and success, because isn't that one of the most important things, that you have happy kids?
Yeah, I mean, they have their struggles. There's a lot of anxiety in my mom's side of the family, the genetics. So they feel that. But yeah, I feel like, given our world, they can do things that will bring meaning to them. And they're
Amazing.
taking their best shot.
Yeah, I definitely know how that feels. I have an 18-year-old son, and like that, it's just he and I, and I've spent his whole life, because I would live in that awe and wonder space. I just think that everything is awesome, like the Lego movie, everything is awesome, the song. And so teaching him that all along, and then seeing him grow into that person who can feel those things and experience those things is lovely, because like you just said, there are struggles and things can be difficult.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah. And there's growth in that. It's amazing that and I think I'm really happy with how the book has gotten people to think differently about music, for example, and the life cycle that, I wrote the book because my younger brother passed away. And there's a lot of work on awe and grief, where transcendence, and also parenting, that, awe is an awe-based approach to parenting, like we're talking about, Kira, is a new way of looking at parenting, about not making the perfect child, allowing for mystery and unknowns and roughness, right? And then letting them find their sense of wonder in life.
Oh, absolutely. And something I was thinking about a few months ago came to me, this idea of the perfect son or the perfect daughter. A good daughter and a good son is someone that does what they're told and doesn't answer back and all those things. And then I was thinking, well, wouldn't you prefer them to be good people?
Yeah.
Do they have to conform to the goodness that we think is the goodness that is necessary? All these questions.
They should fight against it.
Yeah,
They're supposed to.
For sure. So the book that you did, is this the one? It's the science of everyday. I just want to read it because I've got it rolling across the bottom of the screen there. The new science of everyday wonder and how it can transform your life.
Yes, that is it.
Mm. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
And everybody can go and get that. Where is it available, Dacher?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully a local bookstore, but
Brilliant.
Amazon, of course, and so it's widely available.
Excellent. And you've written lots of books.
I I'm an author of six books. So
Excellent.
uh, I think, yeah, and I'm working on a seventh. So
Oh, very good. So there's no shortage of what people can read, and
yes,
there's upcoming.
yeah,
Can we know anything about the upcoming one?
yeah. I think it's really. Thank you for asking. When I did the Science of Awe, interviewed a bunch of people. One of the sources of awe is moral beauty, is people's kindness and courage and justice and humility, and how that inspires us to be our best, our higher selves, and really imagine what the world could be. And, I was surprised by the finding that as I started to talk about it, people were like, what is that? Because today is such a morally ugly time in so many ways.
Mhm.
Young people just don't trust humans. There's a lot of reasons to trust people, just like you said earlier, that so much goodness in humans.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is because they live so much of life online, which has been designed to make us hate and to hate ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I am hard at work on that book, and very excited about how, this is an opportunity for us to rethink, how we approach our fellow human beings.
I love the way you've described it as moral beauty. And it feels like such a great phrase because there's
Yeah.
so much ugliness
Yeah.
and the distrust is in that ugliness. So to find
Yeah.
the opposite of that is I really love that. That's a lovely name to call it.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Heartily welcome. So I had one question actually because I was pondering the whole awe thing previous to you coming on, and I had written it down. And if you're okay with me, just so, and I don't know if this is true, but this is kind of what I want to say. So if awe dissolves the ego,
Yeah.
what happens to ambition when there's no ego in place? Does it disappear or does it become irrelevant?
Well, a lot of people who people who've thought hard about like the greatest successes in life often arrive at the conclusion that it comes out of service and
Mm,
selflessness, right? That the greatest, you know, novelist or the greatest lawyer or the greatest doctor has this strength of like, I'll just serve other people and help other people and advance their well-being. And so what that suggests is that awe, by quieting this voice of the narrow sense of self. Oh, what does Dacker get out of this? And does everybody think he's a cool person or whatever? Instead, awe expands us to think like, well, what is our broader culture doing right now? Or
mm.
what's my organization doing? What's this emergency room that I manage? How are we all behaving together? So awe is a pathway through dissolving the self to making teams and collectives stronger and more creative. And that's good news for contemporary life.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, let's just get rid of the egotistical thing. Okay, so then because I'm conscious of your time, tell me this. What would you like to leave people with before we finish today?
Thank you. And it really, I lived this when my brother passed away. It was red haired, you know, wonderful more person of moral beauty in my life of colon cancer. And I was knocked off of my, path. And I was doing all the science of awe. And I was like, I got to go find awe. And
Mm,
what we know from the science is a couple minutes a day is all you need, and it's easy. And the book provides these wonders of life that are pathways to finding awe. Think about somebody who inspires you. Get outside and go look at the clouds in the sky. Listen to a piece of music that brings you tears and gives you the chills, like you described earlier. Kira. Go to a museum. Go out and move with other people. Cheer at a sporting event or
mm.
go dance. So really easy, and I did that, and it changed my life. And we've now only provided more evidence of how important that is for our health of our minds and bodies. So go find a minute of awe each day.
I love it. God, if we can't find a minute
Yeah.
of awe each day,
Then
there's a problem.
exactly. Then your schedule is not what it should be.
I'll just say this to you at the end, and I'm sure you've heard it. When I heard it, I laughed so much. If you can't do 20 minutes of yoga or meditation a day, you should do an hour. And I laughed so much. It's so good.
Here, here.
And it was probably some Buddhist or Tibetan monk or something that said
Yeah.
it, in a Confucius type way to their student. And I thought that's perfect. That's exactly what it is. So if we can't find a minute's all, we should try and find half an hour or an hour.
I agree.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, everyone, The New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life is the book that you can buy that Dacher wrote. You can get it in your bookstore. I'm sure if you're here in Westport, Seamus Duffy's bookshop will get it for you, or you can get it on Amazon. And Dacher, it's been amazing. I have no doubt I'm going to be emailing you in the future. So thank you for your time.
Good. Yeah, wonderful to be with you. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you yourself. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.